for it, wait 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 for it.
To talk about Erling Haaland. I put something up on Twitter yesterday where I said that I was right about Erling Haaland. Now, if you can't remember what I said about Mr. Haaland just over a year ago, allow me to refresh your memory.
I'm looking forward to this. Hit the like button, by the way. We're covering this from Rory Jennings, a big take on Arsenal from Goldbridge, and the Maguire protection that he gets as well. We're looking at some clips surrounding that, so stay with us for the whole video. Hit the like button now, though. Get it done. Subscribe, and please turn on that bell notifications and turn push notifications on your phone so you don't miss our content. Back to Mr. Jennings.
Haaland will not live up to the expectation. I am so bored.
Why won't he?
Because he isn't the player that everybody thinks he is. Will he score goals? Yes.
So how many goals is success?
We are arguing the same thing. I'll tell you what,
We're
Rory,
not.
He's going to be the Golden Boot winner. He's going to prove you wrong.
Okay, I will take that bet.
How many goals is he going to score this season?
I think he'll do really well to score. If he scores 15, it would be a really good season for him.
Okay.
That's it. I'm done.
How many
15
do you think?
goals.
How many do you think he's going
Right, now that was wrong. That was completely
Yeah, it was wrong. We'll let him talk. We'll let him talk.
wrong. I was proved to be totally and utterly incorrect with everything that I had suggested. However, I think that we can revisit some of the points that I make in that clip today. Erling Haaland is certainly struggling for form, and let's face it, he is not scoring the goals that Manchester City need. It's all very well to portray his goal record currently this season in a very positive light. People will go, well, 8 and 8, Rory. And you're like, yeah, okay. 8 and 8 is very impressive. But when you think of the brilliance and dazzling nature of this Manchester City team, coached by one of the best managers that has ever existed, I think it's fair to assume that a lot of players would score goals in that City team. Julian Alvarez, for example, has played nowhere near the same amount of games as Erling Haaland. Alvarez has 6. Haaland has 8. 8 in 8 sounds brilliant. It really does. But some stats can be misleading. So what I thought we could do is break down exactly where those goals were scored. You were looking at 3 goals versus Fulham. You were looking at 1 goal versus Sheffield United. You were looking at 1 goal versus West Ham United. You were looking at 1 goal versus Nottingham Forest. You were looking at 2 goals versus Burnley. Not exactly the top tier. Some, in fact, would refer to that sort of record as being a flat track bully. Now, look, there's no easy games in the Premier League and there's no such thing as scoring a bad goal. However, when we're talking about Erling Haaland, we're talking about him in the same breath as some of the best strikers to have ever existed. People will tell you that he's a better player than Harry Kane, for example. I think it's very interesting to break it down. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Erling Haaland has scored 1 goal in his last 5 games. You know when his team need him most? So Kevin De Bruyne...
I'm going to stop Rory there. Listen, I get where Rory's coming from. I was listening to that. I digested it. Go watch the full video on his channel as well. Clutching at straws is the only thing I can think of here. No one has ever really claimed that Erling Haaland, from a technical point of view, is the new Messi. That he's a Zinedine Zidane, that he is, an Eric Cantona, or even, a Thierry, not even a Thierry Henry. No one has ever spoke about him having that level of ball ability, a touch, skill, a dribbling attribute, which is just second to none. We've always spoke about him as being one of the most, or maybe the most clinical European striker to emerge in the last 40 to 50 years. And that is what he is. He's in a poor run of form right now, which 99.9% of young players have always had. The Ronaldos and the Messis, at his age, were not scoring at the rate that Haaland has since day one. This man has got 60 goals and 11 assists in his 60 City games. His first year in England, his goals led to a treble. Only the second English team ever to do the treble, and one of only 9 teams in the history of European football to complete that feat. If you look across European football, doubles and winning titles have been done many times. Even going invincible across Europe has happened more times than treble-winning teams, and he was pivotal. And you just go back through last year and look at teams that he scored and assisted against. I'm reading here very quickly. Brighton, Arsenal, good teams I'm looking at here from last year. Newcastle, Aston Villa, Arsenal again, Spurs, Man United, Brentford, Brighton, 2 goals in a game against them, I'm reading. A hat-trick and 2 assists against Man United earlier on in the season as well. A goal against Newcastle early last campaign. In the Champions League, he scored against Dortmund and against Bayern Munich. He scored against Sevilla. So to call him a flat-track bully, I think is disingenuous. If you isolate it down to just this season, yes. But we're not judging Haaland on the last 5 or 6 games. We know he's going to come good again. We know he's going to start scoring again. Rory, were you right? Absolutely not. Even if you said he'd do well to get 15 goals last year, he's already on 8 this season. And yeah, okay, he's 5 games without a goal. But does anybody really believe that Haaland's going to stay in this slump? I personally don't. Shameless, Rory. Shameless.
Away at the end, amazing start last season. What about Arsenal as title contenders this season? Well, it wouldn't be a surprise to you if I said Arsenal have got a really good chance of fighting for the title again. But why? Why is that? Well, I'm going to start off with a few key things. But one thing I would always say, and many of you will know this, if you're new, you probably wouldn't, I was always a big advocate of Arteta, even when Arsenal fans were singing Arteta out and printing T-shirts. I could always see what he was doing recruitment-wise. I look at Manchester United and I look at some of the problems that are still at the club, and I look at what Arteta did, removing people like Ozil, Aubameyang. I'm not saying that they were bad people or bad players, but obviously they weren't part of his future vision. And I think that is instantly recognisable when you look at Arsenal and you see that their team is current. I think they've got the 3rd youngest team in the Premier League, and that is an amazing thing that Arteta has built purposely over the last few years. And I think they're either 3rd or 4th with an average age of 24 and a half, and then the team behind them in 5th or 6th is like 25 and a half. So it's not like everybody's close together. He's built this squad that's got longevity in mind, and longevity is also consistency and chemistry. This is a massive thing for Arsenal this season. I look at Arsenal this season and I don't actually think that they've played particularly well. I don't think they've hit the heights of last season where they were, brushing teams off 3 or 4 and scoring loads of goals. But the impressive side of Arsenal, and it's been really clear, and it was very clear against Man City in what many people described as quite a boring game, but I looked at it as almost a tactical lockout between Arteta and Pep, where neither team could really get hold of the game the way they wanted to, and it was always going to come down to a moment of magic or a deflection like it did. That's massive for Arsenal, and it's massive for the mentality of Arsenal, who last season, let's be honest, visibly were almost scared of Manchester City. So
such an interesting point from Goldbridge there, and I think that he is so spot on. And he's probably the only creator out there really who I think on Arsenal shares a very similar opinion to me. Although the Man City game, from a spectacle point of view, wasn't this humdinger, wasn't this slugfest, this end-to-end basketball-style-esque game. It was so much more measured, concise, surgical. It was a real football match with 2 brilliant tacticians, with 2 amazing teams going head-to-head, trying to outwit each other, but also both desperate not to lose. And the mentality aspect of Arsenal shone through. And they have a very big test this forthcoming weekend against Chelsea. They've got many big tests to come this year. But I believe their start to this campaign is better than last year. I'm always someone that I think you can look at points at this stage of the season, compare it to the previous year. You can do that. It's also, there are some flaws in that logic, because in the first 8 to 10 games this season, you could play a different variety of teams. You could have more away games at tough grounds versus the previous year. So you can't always look at it like for like in that way. Also, a team like West Ham is a great example. Last season, in the beginning of the campaign, they were awful. This year, they've started very well. So going away to West Ham in the first 10 games this season is a very different experience to last year. So you can't completely look at points. What you can look at, though, is control of games. How many opportunities you are conceding within matches. Even when you're not playing at your best, are you getting over the line? How much danger have you actually been in during some of these games? And Arsenal have been fantastic. And I think Mark gets it absolutely spot on when he speaks about that togetherness, that consistency, the longevity that's being created. But that's all about mentality. For me, consistency and longevity is more to do with a person's, a player's, a coach's, a team's mentality, their application, their behavior, more so than it is their technical ability as footballers. They have that, it's there. But you need the mindset to keep working hard to maintain the standards to continue to flourish. That is why Sir Alex Ferguson is held up in such high regard by his peers, because they still, Pep says it himself, how can you stay in one place for a quarter of a century and maintain those standards for so long? Pep says, I don't know how someone does that. And that is what we're seeing, the very early stages, of course, with Arteta. He's been there 4 years or so now. The standards keep raising, the team keeps getting better, and they're becoming mentally stronger than we've seen them in a long time. And in my personal opinion, that can help them win the league this year. I genuinely believe that. I think Mark has made some excellent points there.
It can be brutal at times. You get stick. Standards are expected. You're playing for Man United. If you don't play well, look, let's not get it wrong. If he comes back in the Man United team and they play poorly and they lose games and he makes mistakes, he'll get stick. Mm-hmm. That just comes. It's part of the territory. Yeah. You know, I played for some feisty clubs: Chelsea, Millwall, Marseille. You know, just name a few. Celtic. If you don't play well, you're going to get stick or a certain element. And yes, it's compounded by social media, because it's another level again with remarks that people make, and they're not very nice. I thought Harry Maguire's stood tall in it. I think it's not affected him when he's played for England, and even when he's played for, you know, there has been a little bit on my part. I think a number of players at Man United are getting away with it, where Harry's taken a lot. Now, if you think, has Varane
Well, hang on. What was he going to say?
been brilliant? No, he's not.
Okay, Varane was brilliant last year and he's been very good this season. There's no doubt about it. But Varane has I didn't know he was going to say that. Again, I don't watch these videos before I stream. That's why you see me searching for stats and facts while I'm listening. It's live recorded. I don't edit anything. I can't believe he just said that. Varane in the last year, first season, though, wasn't very good. Varane last season was great. So far this season, when fit, has been great. But Raphael Varane has so much more credit in the bank as a footballer because of what he has achieved. This idea that keeps being perpetuated and pushed by the mainstream media, that Harry Maguire is somehow being mistreated and targeted by United fans, is a lie. It is an outright lie. Maguire has been criticised for poor performances. Has the level of criticism against him been high? Yes. Higher than others? Yes, because he cost 80-odd million pounds. But the reason that Maguire continues to get so much stick is because there is no accountability from him, his family, who I think represent him, plus the mainstream media. He is so protected. It is unbelievable. And my personal belief is that his lack of accountability, which stems, in my view, through the media telling him he hasn't made any real mistakes, his family telling him he's brilliant and he's done nothing wrong. That lack of accountability, that inability to own his poor form is why I don't think he'll get back to his best. And by the way, his first 18 months at Man United, I thought were excellent. He'll never get that back at Old Trafford. When you've been, any mistake you make in life, any problem you have in life, until you first of all admit there's been a problem, you own your mistakes, you own your bad performances, you own your situation, you can never fix it. And the media, this is why I say to Man United fans, you have to push back against this. The media are not our friends. They are not trying to help us. The more nonsense they feed into our players' head that we let go, the harder it's going to be for Man United to get back to the peak of our powers. It may only be a slight, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. Individually, this is, for a lot of people, is a nothing burger. But it's the accumulation of all this nonsense that hurts us as well. I will say this. I will say this for Harry Maguire. His PR and the way in which he gets the media to speak about him, I've never seen anything like it. It's crazy good. It really is. Listen, my people, hit like button, share, leave us your comments below before you go. Take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you all again soon.